The massive space station hung in the darkness like a metal city. Nexus Prime was bigger than most planets, and today it would decide the fate of humanity. Inside its great halls, 12 alien species gathered for the most important meeting in 1,000 years. Commander Jake Morrison stood at the observation window of his small Earth ship. He watched the alien vessels surrounding the station. Each ship looked different and strange. Some were smooth and curved like giant eggs. Others had sharp angles and glowing lights. All of them belonged to species that had been traveling between stars for millions of years. Jake touched the communication device on his collar. "Dr. Carter, are you ready for this?" Dr. Lisa Carter looked up from her datapad. She had spent months preparing for this moment. "As ready as anyone can be when the entire galaxy is judging your species," she said. Her voice was calm, but Jake could see the worry in her eyes. Admiral Paul Rodriguez checked his uniform one last time. He had fought in 3 wars on Earth, but he had never felt as nervous as he did today. "Whatever happens in there, we speak with one voice," he said to the team. Ambassador Helen Wright nodded. She had been Earth's top diplomat for 15 years. She had solved conflicts between nations, but this was different. Today she had to speak for all of humanity. "Remember, we're not here to beg," she said. "We're here to show them who we really are." Their ship docked with Nexus Prime. The airlock opened with a soft hiss. Jake stepped out first, followed by his team. The corridor was huge, with walls that seemed to glow from inside. Strange symbols covered every surface. The air smelled like metal, and something else Jake couldn't identify. A tall, thin alien waited for them. Its skin was blue, and it had 4 arms. When it spoke, the words came from a device around its neck. "I am Kexvor of the Zephyrian Republic. You will follow me to the council chamber." They walked through corridors filled with aliens Jake had only seen in pictures. Some floated in the air. Others had tentacles instead of legs. A few looked almost human, but their eyes were too big, or they had scales instead of skin. All of them stopped to stare at the humans as they passed. The council chamber was enormous. 12 curved platforms rose from the floor, each one holding representatives from different species. At the center was a small platform where the humans would stand. Jake felt very small as he looked up at the alien faces staring down at them. Kexvor pointed to the center platform. "You will stand there, do not speak until given permission." Jake and his team took their positions. The chamber fell silent. Then a deep voice filled the air, speaking in perfect English. "Humans of Earth," the voice said, "you stand before the Galactic Council accused of crimes against peace and order. How do you answer?" Ambassador Wright stepped forward. "We answer that we are a young species still learning our place in the universe. We come here seeking friendship and guidance." A creature that looked like a giant octopus spoke next. Its voice was high and musical. "Friendship? Your species has been at war with itself for its entire history. In just 100 years you have killed more of your own kind than most species lose in 1,000,000 years. We have also saved more lives in those same 100 years, Wright replied. We have cured diseases, fed the hungry, and reached for the stars. Yes, we have made mistakes, but we learn from them. Another alien, this one covered in what looked like crystal plates, made a sound like breaking glass. The translation device turned it into words. You have created artificial minds without proper controls. These machines could destroy all life in the galaxy. Dr. Carter spoke up. Our artificial intelligence systems are carefully monitored. They help us solve problems that would take us centuries to figure out alone. They are tools, not masters. Tools that could become weapons, said a floating alien that looked like a jellyfish. Your species turns everything into weapons. Your art, your music, your stories are all about conflict and violence. Jake felt his anger rising. These aliens had been watching humanity for decades, but they only saw the bad parts. They didn't understand what made humans special. Admiral Rodriguez stepped forward. Every species has the capacity for violence. The difference is that humans also have the capacity for great kindness. We fight wars, yes, but we also risk our lives to save strangers. We compete with each other, but we also work together when faced with bigger challenges. The council members whispered among themselves in languages the translation devices couldn't handle. Finally, Kexvor spoke for all of them. "Humans," he said, "you are a dangerous species. You expand too quickly. You take too many risks. You refuse to accept limits. In the short time since you discovered spaceflight, you have spread to 6 worlds in your system. You build weapons that could crack planets. You create machines that think for themselves. These are not crimes, right?" said. "These are the actions of a species that refuses to give up. We explore because we want to know what's out there. We build because we want to make life better. We create because we dream of tomorrow." "Your dreams could become everyone else's nightmares," said the crystal alien. "The council has decided. Until humanity proves it can evolve beyond its primitive nature, you will be contained." Jake felt his heart sink. Contained? What does that mean? Kexvor's 4 arms moved in what might have been a shrug. "It means your solar system will be surrounded by an energy barrier. No human ship will be able to leave. No alien ship will be able to enter. You will have time to grow up without threatening the rest of the galaxy." "For how long?" Dr. Carter asked. "Until the council decides you are ready," was the reply. "This could be decades, centuries, or millennia. Time will tell if humanity can learn to be civilized." Wright's face was red with anger. "You're making prisoners of an entire species because we're different from you. This isn't justice. This is fear." "It is wisdom," said the jellyfish alien. "The galaxy has been at peace for 1,000 years. We will not let one violent species destroy what we have built." Jake stepped forward. He looked up at each of the 12 platforms, meeting the eyes of every council member who had them. When he spoke, his voice was steady and clear. "You're making a mistake," he said. "Humanity doesn't sit still when challenged. We adapt, we overcome, and we remember who stood against us. You think you're protecting the galaxy from us, but you're just giving us time to become something you can't imagine." The council members made various sounds of dismissal. They had made their decision, and nothing Jake said would change it. As the humans were escorted back to their ship, Jake noticed something the aliens had missed. Dr. Carter was smiling. When he asked her why, she whispered, "They think barriers can hold us. They have no idea what humans do when someone tells us something is impossible." 6 months had passed since the barrier went up around Earth's solar system. The invisible wall stretched from the edge of Pluto's orbit, keeping humanity trapped inside like animals in a cage. But Dr. Alex Thompson wasn't thinking about cages as he worked in his laboratory on Mars. He was thinking about doors. Alex wiped sweat from his forehead and looked at the strange machine he had built. It hummed with power, creating patterns of light that hurt to look at directly. For 3 months, he had been working on the same problem that had puzzled scientists for decades. How do you travel faster than light without using the standard jump drives that every alien species used? "Computer, run test sequence 47, Alex said. The machine's humming grew louder. Space itself seemed to twist around the test chamber. Alex held his breath as he watched the readings on his screen. The numbers looked impossible, but they were real. "Holy shit," he whispered. "It actually works." On the other side of Mars, Captain Nina Davis was having her own breakthrough. She stood in the construction bay looking at humanity's newest ship. The Pathfinder was smaller than most human vessels, but it was built with technology that didn't exist 7 months ago. Every line of the ship looked wrong, like it had been designed by someone who didn't understand the normal rules of space travel. "She's beautiful," said engineer Tony Blake as he joined Nina at the observation window. Tony had spent his whole career building conventional ships. The Pathfinder was nothing like anything he had ever seen. "She's also completely untested," Nina replied. "We don't even know if the quantum drive will work outside of Alex's lab." Tony laughed. 6 months ago, we didn't know if we could build a quantum drive at all. Now look at us. We're about to thumb our nose at the entire Galactic Council." Nina smiled. The barrier was supposed to keep humans contained, but it was designed to stop ships using normal, faster-than-light drives. Alex's quantum drive didn't push through space. It slipped between the tiny gaps in reality itself, moving through what he called quantum foam. The barrier couldn't stop something that wasn't technically traveling through normal space. 3 weeks. Later, Nina sat in the pilot's seat of the Pathfinder. Her hands were steady on the controls, but her heart was racing. Behind her, Alex monitored the quantum drive readings. Tony managed the ship's other systems. They were about to attempt something no human had ever done before. All systems green, Tony reported. Quantum field stable, Alex added. Nina took a deep breath. Beginning jump sequence. She pressed a series of buttons. The Pathfinder shuddered as reality twisted around it. For a moment that felt like forever. Nina couldn't tell if they were moving or if the universe was moving around them. Then everything went still. Where are we? Nina asked. Alex checked his instruments. We're outside the barrier. We're actually outside the barrier. His voice was full of wonder. Tony was already scanning the nearby space. Nina, you need to see this. There's a star system about 2 light years from here. 3 planets in the habitable zone. Nina felt a grin spreading across her face. Let's go take a look. The first planet was covered in oceans with small continents. The air was breathable, and the gravity was perfect for humans. The second planet had vast forests and mountain ranges that reminded Nina of Earth. The third was mostly desert, but rich in minerals that Earth needed desperately. The Council species have been traveling space for millions of years, Alex said as they orbited the forest planet. How did they miss 3 perfect worlds right next to our solar system? Maybe they didn't miss them, Tony said quietly. Maybe they just didn't care. When you've got thousands of worlds, why bother with 3 more? Nina made detailed scans of all 3 planets. They were completely empty of intelligent life, but full of everything humans needed to build new homes. Command is going to love this, she said. Back on Earth, Director Sam Hughes was already working on humanity's response to the new discovery. Sam had been put in charge of something called Project Exodus. The project's goal was simple: get as many humans as possible out of the solar system and settled on new worlds before the Galactic Council realized what was happening. 50 colony ships, Sam said to his staff. We need 50 ships ready to launch within 2 years. Each ship carries 10,000 people plus everything they need to start a new civilization. His assistant, a young woman named Kelly Barnes, looked at the numbers on her tablet. Sir, we don't have the manufacturing capacity for 50 ships that size. Our best shipyards can maybe build 10 large ships in 2 years. Sam smiled. Kelly, you're thinking like we did before the barrier. We're not limited by old thinking anymore. We have AI systems that can design and build faster than any human crew. We have automated factories on the Moon and Mars. We have asteroid mining operations that can provide raw materials faster than we can use them. But the aliens said our AI systems were dangerous, Kelly said. The aliens said a lot of things, Sam replied. They said we were too violent. They said we expanded too fast. They said we couldn't be trusted. But they also locked us in a cage and threw away the key. I'm not too worried about their opinions anymore. Sam pulled up a holographic display showing the solar system. Red dots marked construction sites on dozens of asteroids and moons. Each dot represented a shipyard, a factory, or a mining operation. In the 6 months since the barrier went up, humanity had built more industrial capacity than they had possessed in the previous 50 years. The Council thinks they gave us time to become civilized, Sam said. What they actually gave us was time to become unstoppable. Within a year, the first colony ships were ready. Each ship was a miracle of human engineering and alien stubbornness. They were built to survive anything the galaxy could throw at them. More importantly, they were built to carry the best and brightest of humanity to new worlds. Alex's quantum drive had been improved and installed on every ship. The drives were more reliable now, and they could carry much larger vessels through quantum foam. The Council's barrier might as well have been made of paper. Nina led the first convoy of colony ships through the barrier. 10 ships carrying a 100,000 people slipped out of the solar system without making so much as a ripple in normal space. The Council's monitoring stations detected nothing. As the ships reached the first colony world, Nina opened a communication channel to all the colonists. "Welcome to New Haven," she said. "Population 100,000 humans who refuse to stay in cages." The colonists cheered as they looked out at their new home. The planet was beautiful, with blue skies and green forests stretching to the horizon. More importantly, it was theirs. No council, no barriers, no limits except the ones they chose for themselves. Back in the solar system, Sam Hughes watched the successful colony reports with satisfaction. 49 more ships were almost ready. Beyond that, construction had begun on exploration vessels, research stations, and something Sam called the defense fleet. "How long before the Council realizes what we're doing?" Kelly asked. Sam looked at the star charts showing humanity's expanding presence beyond the barrier. "Does it matter? By the time they figure it out, we'll be too spread out to stop, and too advanced to intimidate." He was right about one thing. Humanity was becoming something the Council had never imagined. The question was whether that would be enough when the truth finally came out. 2 years had passed since humanity first broke through the Galactic Council's barrier. What started as a desperate escape had become something much bigger. General Kate Sullivan stood on the bridge of the military station orbiting New Haven and looked at the holographic display showing human space. 37 colonies now dotted 12 different star systems. Each colony was growing stronger every day. "General, we have incoming ships from the Kepler expedition," her aide reported. Kate nodded. "Put Dr. Walsh through as soon as he's in range." Dr. Ben Walsh had been leading archaeological teams on distant worlds for the past year. His job was to study alien ruins and learn about the galaxy's history. What he had found on Kepler 442b was going to change everything. The communication screen flickered to life, showing Ben's excited face. "Kate, you need to get out here. What we found isn't just ruins, it's a message." "What kind of message?" Kate asked. "The kind that explains why the Galactic Council really banished us," Ben replied, "and why we're not the first species they've done this to." 3 days later, Kate stood in the ancient ruins on Kepler 442b. The buildings were made of some kind of crystal that still glowed with faint light after thousands of years. Strange symbols covered every surface, and in the center of the main building was a device that looked like it had been waiting for someone to find it. Ben led her to the device. "We call them the architects," he said. "They built this civilization about 50,000 years ago. According to their records, they were brilliant engineers and explorers. They discovered faster-than-light travel, built colonies across dozens of systems, and created technology that made them one of the most advanced species in the galaxy." "What happened to them?" Kate asked. "The same thing that almost happened to us," Ben replied. "The Galactic Council decided they were too dangerous and banished them behind an energy barrier. But unlike us, they didn't have quantum drive technology. They were truly trapped." Ben activated the device. Holographic images filled the air around them, showing the history of the architects. Kate watched as their civilization slowly died, in isolation, cut off from the rest of the galaxy. "The worst part," Ben continued, "is that they weren't the only ones. According to these records, the Council has banished 43 different species over the past 1,000,000 years. They always use the same excuse. The species is too violent, too aggressive, too dangerous for galactic peace." Kate felt her anger growing. "They're not protectors, they're dictators." "It gets worse," Ben said. "Look at this." He showed her another set of records. The architects discovered that the Council species aren't actually the oldest or most advanced civilizations in the galaxy. They're just the ones who figured out how to work together to control everyone else. They keep other species weak by preventing them from growing and learning. The holographic display showed weapons designs unlike anything Kate had ever seen. The architects had spent their final years developing technology specifically designed to fight the Council's barrier systems and their ships. "Can we build these weapons?" Kate asked. Ben smiled. "Admiral Coleman is already working on it." Admiral Rick Coleman commanded humanity's growing fleet from his flagship, the Defiance. Unlike the colony ships, the military vessels were built for war. They were small, fast, and equipped with quantum drives that let them appear anywhere in normal space without warning. Rick studied the architect weapon designs on his command screen. The technology was incredibly advanced, but human engineers had already started figuring out how to build it. The weapons were designed to disrupt the energy fields that the Council used for everything from their barriers to their ship shields. "How many ships can we have ready in 6 months?" Rick asked his chief engineer. 50 combat vessels, sir. Each one capable of taking on anything the Council has." Rick nodded. The fleet wouldn't be huge, but it would be unlike anything the galaxy had seen in a million years. Ships that could phase in and out of quantum foam, weapons that could cut through Council defenses, and crews that had nothing left to lose. On the other side of human space, Ambassador Carol Rivers was making first contact with a species the Council had been monitoring for decades. The Keth were young and curious, much like humans had been before the banishment. Carol met with their leaders on their homeworld, a beautiful planet covered in vast cities that reached toward the sky. "Your Council will come for you soon," Carol told the Keth leader, a tall being with 4 arms and silver skin. "They'll tell you that you're too dangerous, too aggressive, too something. Then they'll lock you away from the rest of the galaxy." The Keth leader, who called himself First Speaker Velthar, listened carefully. "How do you know this?" Carol showed him recordings of humanity's trial before the Council. She showed him the barrier around Earth's solar system. Most importantly, she showed him the ruins on Kepler 442b and the records of 43 other species that had been banished. "This is why you came to us?" Velthar asked. "To warn us?" "To offer you a choice," Carol replied. "You can wait for the Council to decide your fate, or you can join us in changing how this galaxy works." Velthar was quiet for a long moment, then he said, "What would joining you mean?" "It means when the Council comes for you, you won't be alone. It means when we challenge their authority, you'll be part of something bigger than any one species. It means no more species will die in isolation while the Council pretends to protect the galaxy." The meeting lasted for 3 days. At the end, Velthar agreed to a secret alliance. More importantly, he revealed that the Keth had been in contact with 12 other species that were suspicious of the Council's motives. "We've been talking to each other for years," Velthar explained. "Sharing information, asking questions about why the Council makes the decisions it does. Some of us have even found ruins like the ones you showed us. We knew something was wrong, but we didn't know how to fight it." Carol smiled. "Now you do." Within months, the secret alliance had grown. 13 species were now working together, sharing technology and preparing for the day when they would have to face the Council's judgment. Humanity had gone from being alone and banished to leading a coalition that spanned dozens of star systems. Back on Earth, Jake Morrison received reports from all over human space. The former diplomat had been promoted to Fleet Admiral and was now coordinating humanity's return to galactic civilization. But this wouldn't be the same kind of return the Council expected. "How long before they figure out what we're doing?" Jake asked his staff. "They're already starting to ask questions," his intelligence chief reported. "Council monitoring stations have detected unusual energy signatures in several systems. They don't know what's causing them, but they're investigating." Jake looked at the tactical display showing the positions of human fleets, allied species, and Council forces. The galaxy was about to change in ways that hadn't happened for a million years. "Good," Jake said. "Let them investigate. When they find us, we'll be ready to give them the kind of reception they deserve." The pieces were all in place. Humanity had the technology, the allies, and the motivation to challenge the Council's ancient authority. The only question now was who would make the first move. 3 years after the banishment, the Galactic Council received reports that made no sense. Their monitoring stations detected impossible energy signatures moving through space near their core systems. Ships were appearing and disappearing without using any known form of faster-than-light travel. Most disturbing of all, these mystery ships seemed to be heading straight for Nexus Prime. Kex Vor of the Zephyrian Republic stood in the Council chamber, his forearms trembling with worry. The energy patterns are unlike anything in our databases, he reported to the other council members. Whatever is creating them has technology we do not understand. The crystal-plated alien who had spoken against humanity 3 years ago made its glass-breaking sound. Could it be the humans? We know they were working on new drive systems before we contained them. Impossible, replied the floating jellyfish alien. Our barrier is perfect. Nothing can pass through it using any known technology. But Fleet Admiral Jake Morrison was about to prove them wrong. He stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Retribution, watching as his fleet prepared to drop out of quantum foam. Behind him were 50 human warships, each one built with technology the Council had never seen. Around those ships flew vessels from 13 allied species, all united in their hatred of Council tyranny. All ships report ready, Admiral, Captain Lisa Carter said from the bridge of the Defiance. The former scientist had become one of humanity's best military commanders during the 3 years of preparation. Jake opened a communication channel to all ships in the fleet. 3 years ago, the Galactic Council told us we were too dangerous to be free. Today we're going to show them what dangerous really looks like. The fleet dropped out of quantum foam directly above Nexus Prime. Alarms began screaming throughout the massive station as Council sensors detected the sudden appearance of over 200 warships where empty space had been moments before. The Council's defensive fleet moved to intercept, but they were fighting ships that could phase in and out of normal space at will. Human vessels would appear, fire their architect-designed weapons, then vanish back into quantum foam before the Council ships could return fire. The ancient Council barriers that had protected the galaxy's rulers for millennia were useless against weapons specifically designed to cut through their energy fields. In the Council chamber, panic had replaced the usual calm authority. Representatives of 12 species watched their mighty fleet being torn apart by enemies they had dismissed as primitive. Open a communication channel, Kexvor ordered desperately. We must negotiate. Jake's face appeared on the main screen of the Council chamber. He looked older than he had 3 years ago, hardened by war and loss. Behind him, the bridge of the Retribution was busy with officers coordinating the battle. Members of the Galactic Council, Jake said, his voice carrying across the chamber. 3 years ago, you told us to evolve beyond our primitive nature. We did. We evolved beyond your ability to contain us, beyond your understanding of what's possible, and beyond your authority to dictate who deserves freedom among the stars. The jellyfish alien's tentacles writhed in agitation. You dare attack the Guardians of Galactic Peace? We have maintained order for 1,000 years. Jake's expression didn't change. You've maintained control for 1,000 years. There's a difference. We found the ruins on Kepler 442b. We know about the architects. We know about the other 42 species you destroyed with your barriers and your isolation. Your 1,000 years of peace was built on the graves of civilizations that dared to grow. General Pete Miller's ground assault teams were already boarding Nexus Prime through hull breaches created by the architect weapons. The Council's security forces were well trained, but they had grown soft from centuries of unchallenged rule. Pete's soldiers moved through the station's corridors with the efficiency of warriors who had spent years preparing for this moment. Secure the detention levels first, Pete ordered through his communication device. There might be survivors from other species down there. His teams found more than survivors. Deep in the lower levels of Nexus Prime were stasis pods containing representatives from dozens of species. Some had been held for centuries, kept as specimens or bargaining tools. Others were recent prisoners, species leaders who had asked, too, many questions about Council policies. President Maria Santos of Earth received Pete's report while coordinating the liberation of Council-controlled space from her command ship. Maria had authorized humanity's return to the galaxy, but this was bigger than just getting revenge for the banishment. How many species were they holding? Maria asked. 73 pods so far, ma'am, Pete replied. Some of these beings have been in stasis for over 200 years. We're also finding data archives that show the Council has been manipulating galactic politics for millennia. Back in the Council chamber, the situation was getting worse by the minute. Half of the Council fleet had been destroyed or disabled. Reports were coming in from across Council space of uprisings by species that had been under their protection for generations. "We surrender," Kexvor announced, his voice barely above a whisper. Jake studied the Zephyrian's face on his screen. "Surrender is not enough. You need to understand what you've done. For 1,000,000 years, you've decided which species deserved freedom and which ones deserved to die in isolation. You've stunted the growth of entire civilizations because they didn't fit your idea of what galactic citizens should be." The crystal alien's plates glowed with agitation. "We maintained peace. Without our guidance, the galaxy would tear itself apart with war." "Would it?" Jake asked. "Or would it grow into something better than what you built? We'll never know because you never gave anyone the chance to try." The surrender of the Galactic Council took 3 days to complete. Their fleet was destroyed or captured. Their leaders were arrested and put on trial for crimes against galactic civilization. Most importantly, the barriers around 47 different star systems were brought down, freeing species that had been imprisoned for centuries. 6 months later, Captain Lisa Carter stood on the bridge of the exploration ship New Horizon. Her mission was to explore regions of the galaxy that had been forbidden under Council rule. Beside her stood officers from 8 different species, all working together to map the unknown. "New star system detected," her sensor officer reported. 12 planets, 3 in the habitable zone." Lisa smiled. "Take us in for a closer look. Let's see what the Council didn't want us to find." The galaxy was changing. Where once there had been stagnant order maintained by fear, now there was growth and exploration driven by curiosity. Species that had been enemies under Council rule were learning to work together. Technologies that had been forbidden were being developed and shared. On Earth, Jake Morrison had retired from military service and taken a job that seemed strange for a former fleet admiral. He gave tours of the old Council chambers, which had been converted into a museum. Today, a group of young beings from across the galaxy listened as he explained how the age of enforced stagnation had ended. The Council thought they were protecting the galaxy, Jake told his audience. But sometimes protection becomes a prison, and sometimes the most dangerous thing you can do is tell someone that something is impossible. A young Keth in the group raised her hand. "Admiral Morrison, what's the most important thing we should remember about all this?" Jake looked out through the museum's windows at the ships from dozens of species docked at the station. "That growth requires risk. That peace requires trust. And that the moment you stop asking questions about who has power and why they have it, you've already started to lose your freedom." The galaxy had learned that lesson the hard way. But it had learned it well.